welcome everybody to the Magic Beans podcast. We are back again for episode number 78. I'm your host tonight after a few weeks away, and my name is Shorty, and tonight we've got just a couple of short topics meant to be our evergreen series, but tonight we're going to just do a little bit of a chat about the changes to organised play and the MPL and pro scene, and we thought who better to get on the podcast this week than our resident pro player with their one pro point, Chewy. How's it going, mate?
I'm good, mate. Good to have you back. How you feeling?
Feeling pretty good. The voice is mostly back. I think maybe I sound a little bit more like Cracker this week, but can we pass that off?
Do you have a big red beard?
No.
No. Okay. No.
Am I capable of growing a big beard? No.
No, me either. Maybe you and I combined, we might be able to get it. Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, it's probably still be patchy.
Yeah. So it's been nearly 13 years since I got a pro point. So I don't know how qualified I am to talk about this, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yep. No, that's good. So yeah, we probably won't be a super long one, as I said. Normally the evergreen week, but yeah, this is a timely topic and something we can have a bit of a chat about and give you our opinion on because the pro play of the MPL affects us drastically in our day-to-day lives. But
I don't know how I'm going to be able to sleep at night. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I feel like I've just got the sack and I'm out of a job.
That's it. Do you get JobKeeper for Magic Play? Yeah. Maybe not.
All right. Well, before we get into it, we need to give our sponsors a shout out. So who is that, Drew?
That is the fine folk over at Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar. They sponsor the Magic Beans podcast as well as our leagues and all of our other events. They are a Facebook auction page where you can bid on physical Magic cards. They have auctions every night and premium auctions on the weekend. Their full-time auctioneer means that they are elite when it comes to communication, packaging, and getting things out to you. So jump over to Facebook, search up Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar. There's always a link in the show notes. And when you do win an auction, please tell them that the Beans sent you.
Very good. So before we get into that main topic, there's one little thing we want to touch on, an announcement that came out today, actually. It was kind of spoiled on Twitter. It's funny how people on Twitter, they're just like absolute super detectives and stuff. They're like jumping on Wizards' website and typing in, addresses for potential pages that can link to and all that sort of stuff. So yesterday, someone figured out that today there was going to be a ban restricted announcement by finding the web link and finding that there's no access to it. It's not a page doesn't exist. It's just there's no access to that page, which gives everybody the indication that a ban is incoming. So what did we see banned today, Chewy?
We saw an announcement for Historic, and there's been a two-card combo kind of dominating. It was very, very well represented at the league weekend, and they've made the decision to ban Thassa's Oracle. And Thassa's Oracle is a card we're probably quite familiar with if we've played any sort of
Pioneer.
Pioneer specifically, yeah, with the old Inverter of Truth. And, I guess, I would read it out really quickly, but it is a wall of text. But effectively, it's a blue and blue for a 1/3 Merfolk, but it's got an ability. If you don't have any cards in your library, you just win the game. So there's
getting paired with a recent card from the Mystical Archives in Tainted Pack, which is a very, very weird card. It's 1 and a black for an instant that basically exiles your whole library and lets you put one of those cards into your hand as long as you're revealing cards with different names. So did you see this deck at all getting played, Chew?
I heard about the super engaging, exciting gameplay with this deck where you basically just let things time out. So I think a big part of the banning is, Historic is an arena only format, and it just broke arena effectively. So
So like the way the deck worked was you would ideally on the end of your opponent's turn 2, you would cast Tainted Pact because it was an instant, and exile your entire library except for one card, which you would then draw in your turn and then cast your Thassa's Oracle and win the game. The problem with that is that you didn't get additional time on the clock when you were resolving your Tainted Pact. So because you hadn't built up time, the timeouts, I think they're called on Arena, from passing your turn quickly, because it was literally the second turn, and it was just time consuming. Like you had 50 cards that you had to get through and decline to just keep exiling them. So people would just run out of time, and what happened when you ran out of time was it just declined the whole thing, and so it just exiled your entire deck, and then you went to your turn and tried to draw a card and you just lost the game.
Yeah.
So that was the annoying way to do it. So then what people were doing is they were then casting the Thassa's Oracle and then responding to that, to the trigger with the Tainted Pact, and then you could literally just sit there and do nothing, go and have a drink or whatever, and Arena would just time you out, and then it did the same thing. When it timed you out, it resolved all the Tainted Pact and declined everything, so it exiled your entire deck, and then it resolved the Thassa's Oracle trigger, and so you just won the game. Which sounds really exciting.
Miserable way to
doesn't sound
play
exciting
the
for
game.
anyone.
Yeah.
The person sitting on the opposite side is doing nothing, and you just don't have to do anything. You just sit there, or you walk away from your desk and you come back and it says victory on your screen.
It's that... Remember when we had Paper Magic, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, where someone was going to combo off with Storm or whatever combo deck,
or KCI,
and that they'd give the opponent something to colour in or something, and or someone just write F6 on a piece of paper.
Do the Kibler and F6 and just go to the toilet.
exactly, and that's a not a great look for the game, and really unfortunate. And I've seen this combo in other formats. It's pretty popular in 7-Point Highlander, which is an awesome format. If you haven't played that, should look that up. And that's, you're playing a 60-card singleton deck, so it works really well in that format. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's just a broken interaction, and it's always going to be problematic. I have a bit of an issue, I guess. I think they made the right choice, but I think there's certainly an argument to have banned Tainted Pact over Thassa's Oracle.
Yeah.
The Thassa's Oracle wasn't a problem in Historic, but it still could have been used with, Jace, Wielder of Mysteries.
Yeah, you can still play the deck with Jace.
Yeah, exactly. And, it wasn't a big player in the Historic meta or anything, but it was an option, and they've just completely culled that option, and and they've called out in the actual announcement that Thassa's Oracle could have this interaction with a future card printed, and we don't know what's coming in future sets. They've got obviously more information than we do, but removing a card like this removes a potential archetype from the format, and maybe that's what they want. But this is an archetype that does appeal to a bunch of people, whereas just Tainted Pact, this is the only real use for it. So they've solved the problem and they've solved the future problem, but the casualty of that future problem is any other sort of more fair, not 2-card combo decks, or a 2-card combo at instant speed like this with Tainted Pact versus a Jace activation or whatever. So it's a tricky one, and it's unfortunate, I guess. They probably made the right choice. It's just unfortunate that a cool card like Thassa's Oracle has to sit on the sidelines because of a card in the Mystical Archive.
In the most recent set.
Yeah, exactly.
We've seen it before. Ban the older card, keep the newer card.
Well, we don't want people... Well, there's already cards banned from the Mystical Archive. It hasn't stopped people burning wild cards or investing in the set at all. So, yeah, I don't know if it's too much of an issue. But, Tainted Pact's still there. You could still abuse it, potentially. I don't know. So
yeah. I'm sure someone will find a way to do something funky with it, or, they'll just play Jace instead.
Yeah, and, I mean, doing it on turn 4 versus turn 2 gives your opponent a bit more of a chance to get set up or interact with you. But yeah, it's unfortunate. 2-card combos. Yep. They don't usually stick around in Magic for very long,
that's
do
right.
they? Yeah.
All right, cool.
Enough.
So, on to the main topic. So, this week or about a week ago now, I think, 14th of May, Wizards put out an announcement. And apparently the people that this affected the most, which is the people in the MPL and the Rivals League, were told about this the day before the announcement actually went live. But yeah, basically, Wizards is cancelling the Magic Pro League, the MPL, and the Rivals League at the end of the next season. So currently their seasons run like June to June, like the US school years run. So we're sort of almost to the end of the current season. And they'll be cancelling them at the end of the next season, so around June next year. So obviously that has some pretty big impacts and some big implications. There's a big article on it that you can find on the magic.gg site. And I think the big thing that the pro players or the competitive scene players have the biggest problem with is there is no plans. There is no replacement for pro play, basically in any way, shape or form. Nothing announced at all, and unlikely to be seeing anything in the near future. So effectively, the people in the MPL and Rivals just got the sack. Their contracts will be ending, and it's interesting. So I guess we thought we'd have a we can sort of get into that. We thought that we would have a chat. Obviously, we are not pro players. we joked about it that Chewy has one pro point. That does not make him a pro player. A pro player is a professional who does Magic full-time for their job. So this doesn't affect us, and I don't think any of us on the podcast would be really aspiring to become a professional Magic player. I think we all have careers.
Yeah, we've all got jobs and have bills to pay and mortgages and stuff. I think there's some ripple effects here that do impact people that have sort of Magic aspirations or
definitely.
But it doesn't. It's not like we lost our jobs here.
No, exactly. Yeah. So I thought we'd go back sort of to the start of this whole thing with the MPL and Rivals, and I guess go through like what the MPL actually is. So do you know what the MPL is, Chewy?
Well, sort of, and I think this is part of the problem, right?
That's half the problem.
Yeah. So the MPL, they tried to make Magic more of an esport. We had, Arena got released. It blew up. It was this big, flashy, exciting thing.
All those animations that you love so much.
Oh, they're so good. Do you know what? I'm so glad I don't see Uro coming down from the top of my screen anymore. But it's every now and then though, you play Historic or something and you see a phoenix flying across and you're like, oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. But this was Wizards' first attempt at making Magic an esport, and I think what they did is they looked around a whole bunch of other esports and they saw something that they liked and they took it and they went, okay, well, we'll get 32 players that are, currently the best in the world, or 28 players and then 4 personalities that we like, or whatever the wash-up was, right? And then they put these players on a contract and, they had to stream a certain amount and they had to play in certain events and they got paid for that. And that sounded really good. It's just like, oh, there's people now that can earn like a decent wage for playing Magic, and they don't have to work a part-time job and things. They can really focus on Magic, and we're going to see the best people in the world get even better, and it's going to be awesome. And then no one was really interested in it, and they tried to do all sorts of things with Mythic Championships, and in the last. Well, since the inception of the MPL, there's been so much change in the organised play that, I certainly have had trouble keeping up, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. Like, nobody even knows what's happening. I've got no idea. Yeah.
No.
So then they were like, oh, we've got this, like, really elite group, and the only way anybody gets out of the NPL was to either get sacked for inappropriate behaviour or like be disgruntled and leave, or other reasons, But so then they were like, oh, hang on. One of the biggest things about our previous system that had been around for over 20 years is that it gave people something to aspire to. And you know, people like me, it's like I played on the Pro Tour one time and it's like, you know, one of my Magic highlights and it's awesome. And I met John Finkel.
Never shuts up about it.
And it was sick. I totally never talk about it. Oh my goodness. But that was gone. So they went, oh, well, okay, well, we've got this thing that's not working in the NPL that nobody watches and nobody cares about. No one can even name half the players that are in the NPL because we don't do any sort of advertising at all. And let's double down and introduce rivals. And so we have now two things that don't really work and add an extra layer of confusion and no one knows what's going on. So, yeah, it's the whole thing has basically been a bust and they want to, you know, I guess scrap it and probably start again with something. But the issue with this announcement is all it is an announcement of something being taken away and not an announcement of something coming.
Yeah, so
it's like when somebody comes out, one of your kids or someone at work comes to you with a problem. It's like, no, it's okay to have a problem. I want you to come to me with a solution to the problem. Don't just come to me with the problem. And I feel like that's what they've done here. They've gone, this isn't working, we're taking it away. And it's like, well, then what are you going to do? And everybody's asking that and they've got no information and that just breeds like hyperbole and speculation, and you've got, you know, the Twitter sphere that is just snowballing and, you know, all of a sudden there's never going to be a competitive Magic tournament ever again. In, you know, if you listen to some commentators, right? But there'll be something, but, you know, they should have accompanied this with here's what's coming. Even if it's a high level thing, it's hard.
Yeah. So I think the NPL kind of came about, as you said, like they wanted to jump on the esports train and I think it came about much earlier than Wizards were planning on. Like we saw Arena get released and it blew up massively when it was still in beta, and it, you know, and I'm assuming, you know, obviously we don't have this information, but I would assume that one of the powers that be in Hasbro went, whoa, this program has far exceeded our targets for player adoption and all that sort of stuff. You need to jump on this now. We need to become an esport and strike while the iron's hot and get in on all that big money that all the big esports have. And so they may have had the idea of starting a pro league and getting all that sort of stuff up and running at some point, and it seemed to be very much just rushed out because there was no, as you said, there was no way to get in or out of the NPL. There was no
pathway
ideas of, well, there was nothing, like no one had any, including the people in the NPL, had no idea what it meant to be in the NPL. When they first started it, there was no league weekends and point systems and all that sort of stuff. Like it was just, yep, here's 32 players and you're on a contract and part of your contract is you need to stream a bunch and that's it. And it was like that for like over 6 months before they actually started to do anything. So I think they shot themselves in the foot by just jumping on this system, and then they were then kind of, once they launched it, they were then stuck with it. So it then led to like 2 years of, well, we've already got this system, we've already said we're going to do this thing, and they were just kind of putting more and more band-aids on it, trying to find something that worked. And then obviously COVID hit and that screwed everything up as well. So it's just been, you know, one disaster after another. But I think a lot of it also came from, I don't know how much you remember this, Chewy, but when they like rebranded everything and we went to players tours, part of the reason that sort of came about was I think Wizards was running into issues with players being called professionals and them, you know, in terms of insurances and superannuation, all that sort of stuff, but them effectively being employees of Wizards. And I don't know if you remember, there was a big issue with judges, judges saying that they were employees and trying to get all the stuff that you get as an employee, all the benefits, all that sort of stuff. So there was a whole lot of that, and Wizards kind of very quickly had to go, oh, okay, we're not, it's no longer the Pro Tour. You're no longer professional players. It is now, the Players Tour and all that sort of stuff to kind of move away from that. And then it became, okay, here's the MPL. These are the actual professional players, and they are on contracts, and they would get whatever benefits or their contract would stipulate, all that sort of stuff. And it was kind of a way to get around that as well, which I think is something that a lot of people have forgotten, that kind of led into that sort of thing. So
yeah, there's a bit of history there. Even there are some parts of Europe, some countries in Europe where they can't actually hold Grand Prix or Pro Tours
well, I know they've had them in the past, and they had to give people like TVs and stuff as prizes because they couldn't give them money.
Yeah. So
back in the day, I know here in Australia, like we have not issues, but something in my work in construction, we employ all of our trades that work for us are subcontractors, and there's laws in Australia where if you work. If more than like 75% of your work is for one company, you're effectively an employee, and they then have to pay superannuation and work cover and all that sort of stuff for you. So there's a lot of companies like the company that I work for, they have contracts and all that sort of stuff in place that the subcontractors agree to so that they don't count as employees and things like that. So I think there's a lot of legal stuff that probably went on behind the scenes that came around with the change of Pro Tours to Players Tours and the MPL being started and all that sort of thing. And there's probably still a lot of that. And that may also be leading into why Wizards is sort of taking this opportunity to move away from actually having professional players that are effectively staff. So
yeah, and I think that's
a lot of things that we don't know about.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's all fair, and I completely understand that. But again, like this didn't explain any of that. It didn't even allude to it. It didn't say. And I don't think they ever would. Like, I know you can say it without saying it. You can say that there's some important restructures or changes to our infrastructure and things like that kind of cover that off with we need to change the way that we're approaching what we do, and rather than nothing. And maybe
but potentially they have to actually be careful
something.
About they have to be careful about what they say, because if they say something along those lines, then they're admitting that these people were employees and opening themselves up to certain things. Like, I don't know. The laws in America are very weird compared to Australia as well.
Absolutely. And absolutely, like, for all we know, there could be some sort of legal case from a former player again, like, who knows? Don't want to start any rumors or anything, but from our
first.
like 80 people that listen to this cast, but it's a we don't know, and I guess like we don't have visibility, and as you said, we probably never will. But it's all just sort of speculation and such now. But I think there's some directions that they could go here that would let the Magic survive as an esport. But I think the days of having those sort of long-standing regular professional players is very much behind us for all the reasons that we've mentioned. And you've only got to look at other esports. If you look at the most successful esports in the world, like you look at like Dota or League of Legends or Fortnite or PUBG had a over $1 million prize pool earlier this year for an event. They don't have players that are they don't have this structure. They have that event where you have to continually spike all of these qualifiers to get to the top echelon, and then it's only like the top 5 of 32 teams that actually make any money. Out of
and
it.
I think a lot of that money comes from their sponsors and that sort of stuff.
It does, and they'll do things like in client they will release skins that you can purchase, and the prize money, well, that subsidizes the prize money, so they'll put up whatever the prize money is. And to use the PUBG one because that's the most recent one that I watched. And it was like $1.28 million for first prize.
Wow.
Yeah, a dude from Melbourne, Tiggleton, took it down, which is pretty good. So in his team of 4, but they got, so you could buy skins that were branded for the tournament. So you got like a gun or a backpack or whatever, and a portion of that purchase went to the prize pool. So that prize pool grew constantly over the course of the tournament, and it was, and it's I believe like Dota and League of Legends do a similar thing as well. So you get these players that are on these elite teams that all work together, and they may play the game professionally because they stream it and they sell merchandise and they go to conventions and events, and they are their own brand. And we've seen people like, Shroud from Cloud9. Sorry, I've played a lot of first-person shooters and, Counter-Strike and such. So I know nothing about like Dota or League of Legends or anything like that, even though they are the biggest biggest
I know nothing about them either.
But they are a similar structure where, you can be a great player and not actually ever play at that top echelon, but content creation and selling your own brand, building and selling your own brand is how you're successful in the sport. And, you might do that by, doing really well at a particular event and making a name for yourself, and then you attract all of these followers. But you don't have this like series of events that you can string together and the train, quote unquote train that we've had in Magic.
Yeah. And I think I guess that was probably Wizards' theory with the MPL was let's have these 32 players that we can star build and highlight. And they started off pretty good with that, like when they ran the first few Mythic Invitationals and things like that, where they did a lot of really good player interviews and that sort of thing. But yeah, the structure and the league weekends and things like that, it just wasn't engaging for the public. Like the stakes just weren't obvious enough or relevant to the people watching, and
nobody knew how to. Does this mean that they're what are they actually playing for?
Yeah, like the way it's worked for sort of the last year was every month, I think it is, they would do a league weekend where they would play like 12 rounds of Magic across 2 days, and it was literally just like effectively Swiss, but there was no top 8, there was no winner. You would find out, okay, yeah, this person went 10-1 and whatever, but it just didn't. There was no conclusion to the weekend, whereas your Mythic Invitationals and your Pro Tours and all that sort of stuff, they played 16 rounds or whatever, and then there was a top 8, and then it's like, oh, okay, who made it to the top 8? And that's all exciting to figure out who that was, and this person got 9th, they just missed out or whatever, and then you watch the top 8 and somebody actually wins and gets a trophy, that sort of stuff.
And they remove the drama and some of the best moments from the Pro Tour, like you think, oh my god, it's Lightning Helix, that Randy Bueller thing, like
I've got to get that on my soundboard.
Yes, you do. Needed that for when I good gamed J-Mud in the historic event.
Too early.
Yeah. But, it meant something, and, it's like, Reed Duke's playing, I like Reed Duke, I'm going to root for that guy, or it's, this guy's, 10-0 in his first Pro Tour, like, go underdog sort of thing, and you could build these stories, and, we saw how much it means to people when... I remember when Autumn Burchett won, or when Toref Severin won with Tron. Like, you could really tell it really meant the world to people because, they came from, obscurity, and something that person had worked so hard for, and you were on that ride with them, and that's just gone. Like Magic, unless you're already enfranchised, like, Magic's not actually that fun to watch, right? You can
no.
You can watch like League of Legends or another esport, and it's all flashy, and they tried to do that with Arena, but fundamentally it's a card game. And by removing the people aspect and the journey and the drama and their story from that, because it's just like 32 people that they don't advertise, and you go, oh, is that guy in the MPL, or is she in the MPL, or like, oh, I didn't realize that person was there, because they have been for 2 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, they took away the best aspect of the Pro Tour, which is the aspirational aspect and the story building of the people that were there, and they didn't do a good enough job pumping up its replacement. And so I think they just they're going to have a bunch of lessons to and add in the other stuff that we talked about, whether there's like the infrastructure, legalities, contracts, that sort of stuff. But so that's an extra complexity, and like the whole pandemic on top of it. So I get they were in a tough spot. So I'm going to try to take the optimistic approach from here, because I bashed them a little bit in what I said tonight, but I'm hoping, and please just don't let us down, that we see something replace it that lets us have something to aspire to as players. Like, I've top 8 at a few, PTQs over my journey, and they sting when you lose, right? Because it's like I was that close again, right? It's it was really tough, and I played the right deck or played well on the day, whatever, and I got there, got to the top 8, and then inevitably, normally me, I'll lose in the quarters. But it's it's the carrot was there to try to get to the PT, and it was something that was achievable. It was just out of reach, but certainly obtainable. The NPL just created this massive chasm between your average Magic player like myself that been playing the game for a while, capable of slinging some cards on their day, and everybody that's in the NPL. Like there's no way to bridge that gap. And that's what I'm hoping that they concentrate on. And they're talking about the gathering and such, and we've got vaccines and all the rest of it, and hopefully we can do that. But hopefully the structure turns to something like Grand Prix and things, and there's something to aspire to. That's what I really hope, because that's what really drives me. The competitive side of me as a Magic player is trying to get to that next level, because I want to see how I go. And I don't think I'm alone there.
No. So we sort of understand why it was cancelled. It wasn't any good. We're all in agreement with that. I think all of the people in the NPL agree with that, and the rivals, that it was just not a good system. We don't know what it means for pro play going forward. They've outlined between the article that they released, and then they did a live stream where they did a bit of a Q&A and answered a few more questions, that sort of thing. They've effectively said you cannot count going forward on being able to sustain your income as a professional Magic player. So what that tells me, and what most people are assuming, is that, and from what they've said, they do want to go back to Pro Tour Grand Prix style events, whatever they look like and are labelled as whenever they come back. But it sounds like there is unlikely to be a pro club. Prior to the NPL, there was a thing called the Pro Players Club, and you would earn points like Chewy did with his single pro point. There's been a few systems through the years, but the one just before the NPL was bronze, silver, gold, platinum pro levels, and those different levels meant you were invited to X amount of pro tours per year. At certain levels, you got appearance fees. So if you played at a Grand Prix, you got given an appearance fee. If you were platinum, you got like flights to the pro tours and accommodation, all that sort of stuff. So that was something that you could, as Chewy was saying, like the train, you could sort of chain events together and throughout the series of a year earn enough points to get on the train and become a pro player where you're going to all of these events all the time. It sounds like that is just not going to be back. We're not going back to the previous system. That's just not going to come back. I don't think Wizards wants to support that. And no, and I think I don't blame them. Yeah, and that died when the NPL came about. So I think everybody's already mourned that and moved on. Yeah.
So what I guess what I was alluding to with the comparisons to other esports is that there is big prize money, but top-heavy prize money for major events.
Yeah.
And people make their living through playing the game on stream and content creation.
Content creation.
Yeah.
Yep.
So And look, they tried to do that with, part of the NPL contracts, and I think that's how that is my guess. That's what they'll do. So they might have a $250,000 prize pool tournament, but instead of paying down to 128th or 64th or whatever they do, it'll be the top 8 get money, where everybody else gets nothing, right?
Yeah.
There might be different structures for in paper versus arena events, potentially. But I think what that does is, outside of like the big, world championship equivalent, we won't see the travel. And, for us in Australia who get, one Grand Prix a year and one Pro Tour every 10 years or whatever it's worked out to be, it's pretty exciting to have pros.
I remember, like when we went to Sydney for the GP, and the next weekend was the Pro Tour in Sydney, and we're standing around outside in the breaks or whatever, and it's like, oh, there's John Finkel, and there's Brad Nelson and Mike Sigrist and all these people, and it's like, oh, like these are people I've actually watched play, like they're people I look up to as awesome Magic players. So absolutely, that's definitely cool, but yeah, I don't see that coming back.
No, and that's unfortunate because that was part of the star building that happened kind of organically, and it was I think PV put out a bit of a response to this, and he's like, well, why would I watched his video. Yeah. Yep. So it's and I certainly understand that, and look, I get his position, but like the cynic in me, and sorry PV, but the cynic in me is like, now you just feel like an Australian. So,
suck it up.
Yeah, like that's the issue that we've had for forever. But like that doesn't. I'm not invalidating his point at all. But no. I guess in that way I can really relate to what he's saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's unfortunate, and we won't get that again. No. And what does that mean for coverage and things? Because when you've got those big events, like seeing the best people in the world, and how many times did you see top 8s that had Brad Nelson and LSV and Reed Duke and
like 4 Hall of Famers and a bunch of other well-known pros.
Yeah, exactly. And all of these people that were just you're like, oh, that top 8 is stacked. We're going to see top 8s that are less known players and such. Great for them, and they'll get that exposure, and that's fantastic. But it was always a spectacle when you got a top 8 that had 6 Hall of Famers in it or something. You knew you were in for a treat and some great Magic. But yeah.
Yep. So we will see. They are continuing the season for next year, as I said, the 2021-2022 season, I believe it is. They're cancelling all the league weekends and that sort of thing, so we won't be seeing those anymore, not that anybody watched them anyway. There won't be the gauntlet events and that sort of thing, but they will be still having the set championship. So we're still effectively getting, I think, 3 or 4 Pro Tour style events. Obviously,
3 events,
most likely arena events. Okay, 3. And then it is still leading to a world championship at the end of next year, so there's still going to be those events. There's still going to be those big events.
They're upping the prize pool for those events as well, worth mentioning. $450K, which is, nothing to sneeze at for sure.
Yep. I guess, like one of the questions I sort of wanted to ask was, should Wizards even care about having professional players? Like, Pro Tours historically have been between 300 and 500 players. The platinum players, so the people you would call like proper full-time pros, I think there was like 30 or 40 of them, something like that. Like not much more.
About the same number that were in the MPL.
Yeah, right? I think a bit more, but not that many more. And then, you might have like, I don't know, 100, 150, something like that, gold, and then a bunch of silvers and bronzes, whatever. Like, it's such a small drop in the player pool of Magic. And I guess the question is, like, obviously Wizards have shown this year their earnings have been insane. They've earned way more money in the last year. There was the earnings, all the earnings information came out, all that sort of stuff. And that's in a year where the MPL has been horrible. People haven't been watching stuff. Everyone's been stuck at home in lockdowns from COVID. Have Wizards just gone, okay, why do we bother? Like, we don't need
maybe,
pro players.
When you're trying to justify a decision, you can, you can make numbers tell a particular story. So if they're just giving you aggregate numbers, and what they're comparing it to is, years where they haven't had the amount of products and, premium products and such. So you've got to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt.
Well, I mean, that doesn't really matter. Like, it's showing that they can print 1 million products and they still sell like crazy. So that's got no correlation to having pro players and
I get that. And, nothing as far as, organised play compares to, people playing Commander and such, right?
Yeah. But that's what I'm getting at, is like, are the powers that be at Hasbro saying, okay, we've got these 32 players that we're currently paying $75,000 a year as their salary, plus all the prizes that they get, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, like listening to podcasts from people who are in the NPL, they freely admit that all the pro players do is bicker and fight and complain to WotC about various issues, and they're the worst people to work with, as in the NPL people are the worst people to work with, which is not surprising, because you picture your professional Magic players, they are super analytically minded and always trying to find the 2-for-1s and the edges and all that sort of stuff. So every little thing that WotC does, they're going to rip it to pieces trying to find the loopholes and all that sort of stuff. So you can imagine
that's why they're good at the game, right? They've got that personality.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like, they're exactly those people that you would be really annoying.
Yeah.
And so,
there's a few of those at my work too. But
yeah. So Hasbro's probably going, okay, we've got these people we're paying a ton of money to. They're not good advocates for us. They don't really market much for us and bring in any extra income. And they're a
there's
pain
a bit
in the
of
backside to deal with.
and I completely acknowledge that there's that entitlement. But they do, like, high level Magic play, personalities whinging aside, high level Magic play does bring people to the game, does contribute to the game. And, like, you working in construction, I'll give you a little bit of an analogy, right? Say your construction company went, wow, we build way more 3-bedroom homes than 4-bedroom homes, right? Well, like, it's like 70% of our market, 3-bedroom homes. We're not going to do 4-bedroom homes now, and never ever going to do another 5-bedroom house again, because it's only 10% of our markup, but of our market. But the idea of completely severing 10 or 30% of your revenue stream is a terrible business decision, right?
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, the percentage of pro players and people that are going to stop playing Magic because there's no pro play is like 0.2% of the Magic players. Like, it's not 10%. Like, 10%, yeah, that's a huge amount. If you went, okay, if we make this decision, we're going to lose 10% of our market share or whatever. It's not. It's no way near that.
But they've done that with
1%.
Their own terrible execution. They they can't, with what you're saying, and look, I think, like, there's definitely a business decision attached to that, and I don't have the actual numbers, and so I'm speculating. But if they want Magic to be an esport, if they want to go down that track, then that's counterproductive. Like, that decision to sever pro play or high level play is counterproductive.
Yeah, and that's what I think the business decision is they've gone, okay, we don't actually need to be an esport to be successful, so let's just scrap this whole esports idea, and along with that, we can scrap having these professional players and all that sort of thing. Like, that, I think that is the business decision that they've made, which they're not going to say.
No.
That's behind closed doors conversations, but yeah, I think they've realised that having those pros probably doesn't have a huge effect on their bottom line. And who knows, it might get 2 years down the track and they go, oh, hang on, we're actually starting to see a decline in our sales, so maybe we do need to bring that back, and then all of a sudden there's some big new shiny pro system, and yeah, who knows. But I guess, like, for people like us, as you've said a bunch of times tonight already, it's the thing we want to see is there's something to aspire to, even though we are all very much of the understanding that we're never going to get there. And even if I was offered a $75,000 professional Magic contract, probably wouldn't take it because probably not the best decision with the mortgage and family and all that sort of stuff. But it's nice to have that as something, the dream that you're never actually going to achieve, and that's what pro play does for the regular people like us.
I don't think the dream of being a Magic Pro has ever been like, I can be a Magic Pro for 5 years and then retire and never have to work a day in my life. It's the notion that you can be rewarded for playing the game well. It made you want to invest the time. Like some of the best times that we've had playing the game is like testing for events, traveling to events and playing in those events, right? Where there's something on the line, we're playing for something. Whereas, if that doesn't exist, it's just like everyone get together and, sling four people commander pods for a weekend. I'm not going to travel to Sydney or to Brisbane to do that. But if there's something akin to a Grand Prix where, there's decent money on the line and potentially, the next level that you can go to, whatever that looks like, then I'm going to be more invested in that. And, like you and I have travelled all over Melbourne trying to get buys for Grand Prix and then fly up and book hotel rooms and take, have to
bomb out,
cash in all of our brownie points with the family to do that. And knowing full well that bombing out is a really realistic outcome that we have, and
it's the most likely outcome.
But that's part of the drama of it.
You never know. You might just open that awesome sealed pool and spike it, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, I just won $2,000 or whatever it is, and all of a sudden the weekend was a huge success, and that may qualify you for another event. And that's what the system does, and that is something Wizards is going to have to put in place. And we see the same thing, like in the events that we run. We've got our leagues and our one-day events and that sort of stuff. And we could run just random one-off events with some good prizes, a little bit of cash, that sort of thing. And we'd have, 15, 20 people that would play in the events and whatever, and that'd be fun. But as soon as we link it to a series where it's, you play in our leagues and you earn points, and then you play in our one-day events and you earn points, and it's all leading towards this end-of-year invitational. It
means
where
something. Yes.
You become the 2021 Magic Beans Invitational Champion. You
get a token from Josh and Pat.
You're not getting much. I mean, it's pretty sweet for a free event, but exactly as you said, it means something. It's building towards something, and that's what Wizards is going to have to figure out. What they want to do and how they're going to do it, and if they can come up with a good system, then people are going to be fine. And
if they can't, we'll do it. Come play our leagues.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. We'll host the 4,000 player Magic Beans leagues, and somehow I'll run it. Yeah. But I think the dream of being a full-time Magic professional where all of your income comes just from playing in major tournaments and doing reasonably well, I think that is gone, and that will probably never come back. I think if you want to be a professional Magic player, as you said, Chewy, you need to be a streamer or an article writer or doing podcasts or some sort of content creation that is supplementing the income, and then hopefully we'll see good prize money coming out with all the events, and that would be enough to supplement some people. And if you're, I don't know, early 20s and you don't have a mortgage or kids or expenses in your life, you can probably survive off of having a spotty income. But for people like us, that's not really feasible. And I think probably for a lot of the people in the MPL currently as well that aren't already, your LSVs and Brad Nelsons and people like that have other forms of income through their content creation.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. All right, so we don't know where this is going to go from here. I don't blame Wizards for not having an outline right here and now when they did this announcement, because I think that's what's got them into half the trouble they're in at the moment anyway, by announcing this is what we're going to do and then having to be beholden to that and stuck with that system. By doing the announcement now, it gives the NPL and Rivals people 15 months or something like that to work out what they want to do with their lives, and it basically gives Wizards 12 to 15 months to work out exactly what they want to do. That also gives them time to see where the world's at in terms of COVID and all that sort of thing, and then hopefully come up with a system that they've actually worked on and planned out and actually looks good.
Yeah, they just need to do a big assessment of what went wrong and what they can improve on with the current system, and actually do some planning and come up with something. And look, I hope they do. I really hope they do. As I said, I want to take the optimistic approach here, and I'd love to see something that is workable, that gives us something to aspire to, that means that we can see continued high-level play. I would hate to see the best players in the world, just go, okay, now I'm going to go and
play poker.
Yeah, or get a real job. I want to see those players continue to demonstrate why they are the best, and I want to learn from them from watching them play. So I hope it exists in some form, and I hope that it's not we're just going to can all the esport competitive play and just print secret layers and sell to Commander players. So because there's other parts of the Magic community that have been in franchise for a really long time that kind of deserve that, I think, from the organisation. So I'm hoping
you sound entitled.
Yeah. I've spent a lot of money on their products, and
I deserve a good system.
Yeah, I want a reason to be interested. I want a reason to play the game that is more than I love playing the game with my friends. I love playing the game with the people in our leagues and meeting new people with that, and it's great. But yeah, removing any aspiration from the game is risky, I guess, is my final point.
I agree.
There.
And I think that's probably the way most people feel. So we will see what happens. So the 30-minute podcast turned into the 50-minute podcast, as tends to happen when we get on here and just kind of free-form talk / rant.
That was a good chat, man. Good chat.
Yeah. This is one of those, we have these chats every now and then, when we're just hanging out, and it's like, we should really be recording this. This would have been a good podcast. So this is kind of one of those, but good fun.
Hopefully other people think it's a good podcast. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. People probably tuned out half an hour ago. Yeah, I don't think you can get that information from Podbean, but if they download, that's fine. Doesn't matter if they listen.
Yeah, that's all we care about. Yeah, and as long as they go to Josh and Pat's. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So let's wrap this up. So yeah, as a reminder for those playing in our current league, you've got basically a week to finish off your matches. So get cracking on those. There's still a lot that need to be played. You're going to start getting hounded by your league captains. And yeah, if you want to get in on our future events and leagues and have a tournament series that has a goal for you to aspire to, then come and join us in our Discord. You find the link for that in the show notes. It's an awesome community. So yeah, even if you don't want to play in our events, come and join us in there anyway. If you want to show us some support, you can pick up some sweet Magic Beans merch in our merch store. Link for that is in the show notes. Got t-shirts, hoodies, and all that sort of thing. Saw someone bought a hoodie, I think, just last week, which is good to see. Hopefully when we do eventually get some form of Grand Prix or something going again, we can see a whole bunch of people wearing our sweet logo. Go and check out Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar on Facebook. They are the sponsors of our show and all the events that we run. They have awesome deals on their daily auctions, so search Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar on Facebook and join the group. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter, all of those places. Just search for Magic Beans or Magic Beans Cast, and you'll find us on there. If you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at Peace Inc. Chewy, you are?
At Chewy MTG.
Very good. So that's going to do us for this week. Stay safe out there, and we will see you all next time.